I was sitting in my reading chair, the one I'd owned for 37 years, in the bedroom I'd slept in for 42 years, in the house my late husband and I had paid off 20 years ago, when my son walked in without knocking and said the words that changed everything. "Mom, we need this room. You're going to have to move to the guest bedroom downstairs." I looked up from my book, looked at Wesley, my 49-year-old son, standing in my doorway with his wife Paulette behind him, both of them wearing expressions that said this was already decided. "Excuse me. The master bedroom, we need it. Paulette is pregnant and we need the space. The nursery will go in the room next to this one, so it makes sense for us to have the master. You can take the guest room downstairs. It's smaller, but you don't need much space anyway." I sat very still, my book forgotten in my lap, processing what I was hearing. My son, who'd moved into my house 6 months ago, temporarily, while he and Paulette looked for a place of their own, was telling me to leave my own bedroom. "This is my room, Wesley, my house. I'm not moving to the guest room." "Mom, be reasonable. We're about to have a baby. We need the master bedroom. It has the attached bathroom, more closet space, better light. You're just one person, you don't need all this space." "I don't need my own bedroom in my own house." Paulette spoke up. "It's not about need, it's about what makes sense for the family. We're starting our family. We need support. That means making some adjustments to accommodate what we need right now." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't explain why this was outrageous. I just smiled. A small, quiet smile that made Wesley frown. "Why are you smiling?" "No reason. I'm just thinking." "Thinking about what?" "About how interesting this conversation is. You can go now. I'd like to finish my chapter." "Mom, we're serious. We need you to start moving your things to the guest room this week. The baby is coming in 4 months, and we need time to set everything up." "We'll see." "What does that mean?" "It means we'll see. Now please leave my room." They left, both looking frustrated and confused, and I sat in my reading chair, that smile still on my face, thinking about what had just happened. They thought this was a negotiation. They thought I'd eventually cave to pressure, move to the guest room, make myself smaller to accommodate their expanding family. They thought wrong. That was their first mistake. Now listen, before I tell you what I did after my son told me to leave my own bedroom in my own house, before I show you what happens when people assume your kindness means weakness, I need you to do something. If you're watching and someone has ever made you feel like a guest in your own home, hit subscribe right now. Comment where you're from, because what happened when I smiled instead of arguing, you need to hear every word. Turn on notifications. This goes places they never saw coming. Wesley had moved in 6 months ago with a simple request. "Mom, our lease is ending and the landlord is raising rent by $800 a month. We can't afford it. Can Paulette and I stay with you for a few months while we save for a down payment on a house? Just temporarily." He was my son, my only child. Of course I said yes. "You can have the 2 bedrooms upstairs, your old room and the room next to it. Use them however you need." "Thanks, Mom. This is just temporary. 3 months, maybe 4. Just until we get our finances sorted." That was 6 months ago. In those 6 months, temporary had become permanent in ways I hadn't anticipated. Wesley and Paulette took over the upstairs bedrooms. Then the upstairs bathroom became theirs. I was expected to use the downstairs bathroom only. Then the living room became their space in the evenings. "We need to relax after work, Mom. Can you watch TV in your room?" Then the kitchen. Paulette had strong opinions about how food should be organized, what should be in the pantry, how meals should be prepared. I'm doing most of the cooking anyway, so it makes sense for the kitchen to be set up how I need it. Small changes, each one reasonable if you looked at it individually. But together, they'd been slowly erasing my presence in my own home. And now they wanted my bedroom. That night, after they'd gone upstairs to their space, I sat in my reading chair and I thought carefully about what I was dealing with. Wesley and Paulette weren't visiting anymore. They'd moved in, taken over, And now they were expanding their territory to include the one space that had always been completely mine. I needed to understand what I was really facing. The next morning, I made coffee and waited in the kitchen for Wesley to come down. "Morning, Mom." "Morning. Wesley, we need to talk about the living arrangement. About you moving to the guest room. I know it's an adjustment, but about when you're planning to move out." He looked surprised. "Move out? You said 3 to 4 months. It's been 6. When are you and Paulette getting your own place?" "Mom, things have changed. Paulette got pregnant. We need to save more now. We can't afford to move out and pay for a baby. We need to stay here longer." "How much longer?" "I don't know. A year maybe longer. Bobbies are expensive." "And you're planning to stay here, in my house, raising a baby, for a year or more?" "We're family. I thought you'd want to help with your grandchild." That was the moment I understood something crucial. This wasn't temporary. They'd never planned for it to be temporary. They'd moved in, taken over space gradually, and now they were settling in permanently. The baby was just the justification for why they could never leave. "Wesley, when you moved in, you said it was temporary. You said you were saving for a house." "We are saving." "How much have you saved?" He looked uncomfortable. "That's not really your business." "You're living in my house rent-free. It's absolutely my business. How much have you saved in 6 months?" "We've had expenses." "How much?" "About $2,000. $2,000 in 6 months. While living rent-free in a house where they paid no mortgage, no utilities, no property taxes." "Wesley, where's your money going?" "I told you, expenses. Life is expensive, Mom. You wouldn't understand because you're retired and your house is paid off. But for people our age trying to build a life, everything costs money." I didn't argue. I observed. Wesley was 49. He'd been working for almost 30 years. He made decent money as an IT manager. But he and Paulette also went out to dinner 3 times a week, bought expensive coffee every morning, took weekend trips, bought new furniture for their rooms in my house. They weren't saving because they weren't trying to save. They were comfortable, living rent-free in a nice house with a kitchen they'd reorganized to their preferences and space they'd claimed as their own. Why would they leave? "I want you to start paying rent." Wesley's face changed. "Rent? Mom, we're family. We're helping each other out." "You're helping yourselves to my house. If you're going to live here long-term, you pay rent. $1,200 a month. That covers your share of utilities, property taxes, maintenance. That's almost as much as our old apartment cost." "Your old apartment didn't include a full house, private bedrooms, home-cooked meals, and built-in childcare when the baby comes. $1,200 is more than fair. We can't afford that and save for a house." "Then you'll need to make different financial choices. Cut back on dinners out. Stop buying things you don't need. Actually save money instead of spending it on convenience." "This is unbelievable. You're going to charge your own son rent. You're going to live in my house for free, while demanding I give up my bedroom." Paulette appeared in the doorway. She'd been listening. "This is really hurtful. We're about to have a baby, and instead of supporting us, you're making everything difficult." "I'm setting reasonable boundaries. You can live here, but you pay rent and I keep my bedroom. Those are my terms." "We'll need to think about it," Wesley said coldly. "You have until the end of the week. Either agree to pay rent and drop the bedroom demand, or start looking for somewhere else to live." They left for work without another word. And I sat in my kitchen, drinking my coffee, knowing I'd just declared war. But I'd done it smiling, because I had something they didn't know about. Something that was going to change everything. That evening, I got a call from my sister Opal. "How's it going with Wesley and Paulette?" "They just told me I need to move out of my bedroom so they can have the master." "What, that's your house?" "I know. I told them no and set terms. They pay rent or they leave." "Good for you. What did they say?" "They're thinking about it, which means they're figuring out how to manipulate me into backing down. Opal, I need to tell you something. What? I'm planning to sell the house. Silence, then, you're what? Selling the house. I've been thinking about it for months. It's too big for me, too much maintenance. I want to downsize to a condo, something smaller, easier to manage. But you've lived there for 42 years. And I'm 73 years old. The house doesn't make sense anymore. I want something simpler. Have you told Wesley? Not yet. I was going to wait until he moved out. But now that he's planning to stay permanently and demand my bedroom, I think the timeline just moved up. When are you planning to sell? Soon, very soon. Opal, can I ask you something? Anything. If I needed a place to stay for a month or two while I house hunted and dealt with the sale, could I stay with you? Of course. You know you're always welcome. Thank you. I might need that soon. After I hung up with Opal, I sat thinking about the house. I'd lived here for 42 years, raised Wesley here, lost my husband George here, built a life here. But the house was too big now. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a big yard I paid someone to maintain. Property taxes that increased every year, repairs that got more expensive. I'd been thinking about downsizing for 2 years. Maybe a condo. Something with 1 or 2 bedrooms, low maintenance, in a community with other people my age. I'd never mentioned it to Wesley because the timing hadn't been right. He'd needed a place to stay. I'd thought it was temporary. But now that it wasn't temporary, now that he was demanding my bedroom and planning to stay indefinitely, the timing was suddenly perfect. I made a call to Regina Holloway, a real estate agent I'd met at church. Regina, it's Mabel Sutton. I'm ready to list my house. Oh, wonderful. Have you thought about timeline? As soon as possible. How quickly could you get it listed? I could come by this week to do a walkthrough and assessment. We could have it on the market within 2 weeks if you're ready. I'm ready. What about your son? I thought he was living with you. He is, temporarily, but I'm ready to downsize and he'll need to make other arrangements. Understood. I'll come by Thursday at 10 a.m. if that works. Perfect. I hung up and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. Wesley thought he was in charge. Thought he could make demands. Thought I'd just accept being pushed into a smaller room in my own house because I was old and alone and should be grateful for family. He was about to learn that the house he'd taken over wasn't his. It was mine, and I could do whatever I wanted with it, including sell it out from under him. I didn't tell Wesley about the realtor coming. I didn't mention my plans to sell. I just waited to see what he'd say about my rent ultimatum. 2 days later, Wesley and Paulette sat me down for what they clearly thought would be a decisive conversation. Mom, we've talked about the rent thing and we've decided we can't afford it. We need to save for the baby. So we're asking you to reconsider. No. Mom, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You're 2 adults with incomes living in a house you don't own. Paying $1,200 a month is extremely reasonable. Paulette jumped in. We've been doing research. In most cultures, multiple generations live together and support each other. The younger generation helps with chores and maintenance. The older generation provides housing. It's normal, natural. In those cultures, does the younger generation demand the older generation's bedroom? This isn't about the bedroom anymore. It's exactly about the bedroom. You told me to move to the guest room so you could have the master. That's not helping me. That's displacing me in my own home. Wesley tried a different approach. Mom, I'm worried about you, living alone in this big house. What if something happens? What if you fall or get sick? Having us here is actually good for your safety. I didn't argue. I remembered. I remembered Wesley's voice 2 days ago. You don't need all this space. Not we're worried about you, not we want to help you, just you don't need this. This was about what they wanted, not what I needed. My safety is my concern. If you can't afford rent, you need to find somewhere else to live. Fine, Wesley said, his voice cold. We'll start looking. But Mom, you should know, you're making a huge mistake. When the baby comes and you want to be part of your grandchild's life, don't be surprised if we're not interested in having you around. Family is supposed to support each other. You're choosing money over your own grandchild." They left the room, and I sat there, thinking about the threat Wesley had just made. Withholding access to my grandchild, unless I let them live rent-free and take my bedroom. That wasn't family supporting family. That was hostage-taking. Thursday morning, Regina arrived at 10 a.m. for the walkthrough. I'd told Wesley and Paulette I had a friend coming over, nothing more. Regina walked through the house, taking notes, photos, measurements. "Mabel, this is a beautiful home. Great bones. Good location. I think we could list it at $485,000 and get strong interest. How long do you think it would take to sell? In this market, with a house this well-maintained, I'd say we could have offers within a month, maybe sooner." "Perfect, let's do it. I'll draw up the listing paperwork. One question, what about your son? When will he be moving out?" "I'm giving him 60 days notice as soon as the house is listed. That should be plenty of time for him to find somewhere else." "And if he doesn't leave?" "Then we sell the house with him in it. The new owners can deal with eviction if necessary. Regina, I'm selling this house, with or without Wesley's cooperation." She nodded. "Understood. I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow." That evening, I made dinner like normal. Wesley and Paulette came down, ate in silence, and went back upstairs without conversation. They were punishing me with silence, trying to make me feel guilty for setting boundaries. It didn't work. I'd been alone most of my life since George died. Silence didn't scare me. What they didn't understand was that silence gave me space to plan. Friday afternoon, Regina came back with the listing paperwork. I signed everything. The house would go on the market Monday morning. Saturday, I prepared the notice for Wesley. Simple, direct, formal. "Dear Wesley and Paulette, I'm selling the house. It will be listed for sale on Monday, March 4th. You have 60 days from today to find other housing and move out completely. I will be moving to a smaller residence that will not accommodate additional occupants. Please begin making arrangements immediately. Mabel Sutton." I put the notice in an envelope and left it on the kitchen counter Sunday morning with both their names on it. Then I went to church, came home, and waited. The explosion came at 2 p.m. Wesley stormed into the living room where I was reading. "You're selling the house." "Yes." Without discussing it with us, without giving us any warning. "I'm giving you 60 days notice. That's warning." "But we live here. We're about to have a baby. Where are we supposed to go?" "That's for you to figure out. Wesley, you moved in temporarily. You've been here 6 months with no real plan to leave. You're demanding my bedroom. You're refusing to pay rent. And you threaten to keep my grandchild from me if I don't let you live here for free on your terms. I'm done." Paulette appeared crying. "How can you do this? We're family." "Family doesn't demand I give up my bedroom in my own house. Family doesn't threaten to withhold grandchildren as punishment. Family doesn't treat me like a guest in the home I've owned for 42 years. You're throwing us out. I'm selling my house and moving somewhere smaller. What you do is your decision, but you can't stay here. We have rights. We're tenants. You can't just kick us out." "I'm not kicking you out. I'm giving you 60 days notice that the house is being sold. The new owners will take possession after closing. You need to be gone by then." Wesley's face was red. "This is revenge because we asked for the bedroom. This is me doing what I should have done months ago, downsizing to something manageable. Your demands just moved up my timeline." "Where are you even going?" "I'll stay with my sister while I look for a condo. I've already made arrangements." "So you have a plan for yourself, but you don't care what happens to us." "You're 49 years old, Wesley. You have a job and an income. You can figure out your own housing. That's not my responsibility." "Unbelievable. When you're old and need help, don't come crying to us." "I won't." They went upstairs and I heard their voices, angry, panicked, trying to figure out what to do. And I sat in my reading chair, in my bedroom that they'd tried to take, and I smiled. The same smile from a week ago, the smile that had confused them. Now I understood why I'd smiled. Because I'd already been planning to sell, already been planning to leave. Their demand for my bedroom hadn't hurt me. It had liberated me. It had given me permission to stop waiting for them to leave and just solve the problem myself. Monday morning, the house went on the market. By Monday afternoon, there were 3 showings scheduled. By Wednesday, we had 2 offers, both over asking price. Wesley and Paulette were in panic mode. They'd started looking at apartments, but everything was expensive and nothing met their standards. "Mom, can't you wait to sell? Just give us 6 more months to save and find the right place." "No, I've accepted an offer. Closing is in 45 days. You have 45 days to move." "We'll never find a place that fast." "Then you'll need to compromise on what you're looking for." Thursday evening, something happened that showed me exactly how far they were willing to go. I came home from grocery shopping to find Paulette's mother, Veronica, sitting in my living room with Wesley and Paulette. "Mrs. Sutton, we need to talk," Veronica said. "I'm very disappointed in how you're treating my daughter." "Excuse me." "Paulette is pregnant. She needs stability, not the stress of being forced out of her home. What you're doing could harm the baby." "This isn't Paulette's home. It's my home. I'm selling it." "But you're forcing them out with nowhere to go." "They're adults. They can find housing." "Not in 45 days. Not with a baby coming. Mrs. Sutton, I'm asking you to reconsider, for the sake of your grandchild." That was the moment I saw their strategy clearly. They'd brought in Paulette's mother to guilt me, to make this about the baby's safety, to paint me as cruel and unreasonable. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just stood up. "Veronica, you're in my home uninvited. This conversation is over. Please leave." "But..." "Please leave my home." She looked at Wesley. He looked at me, and they saw something in my face that made them realize I was serious. Veronica left. Wesley and Paulette followed her to the door, whispering. And I sat in my living room, knowing I'd won. Not through arguing, not through explaining, not through defending my choices. Through action, through selling the house they'd assumed was partly theirs. Through smiling when they thought I should be crying. They thought telling me to leave my room would make me smaller, weaker, more pliable. Instead, it had made me realize I didn't need to be small anymore. I could just leave, sell everything, start over. And they couldn't stop me. 3 weeks later, the house sale was progressing smoothly. Wesley and Paulette had found an apartment, smaller, more expensive than they wanted, but available. They were moving out in 2 weeks, and I'd be moving to Opal's house until I found the right condo. But the night before they were scheduled to start packing, something happened that showed me they had one more card to play. And it was going to force me to make the hardest decision I'd faced yet. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I was making dinner when Paulette came downstairs alone. Her face was red, like she'd been crying. "Can we talk, just you and me?" "All right." She sat at the kitchen table. I kept cooking, listening. "I need you to understand something. This baby, your grandchild, they're going to grow up not knowing you. Not because we're keeping them away, but because you chose to kick us out when we needed help. That's the story they'll hear. That Grandma Mabel sold her house and left us homeless when Mom was pregnant." I didn't respond. I just stirred the pot on the stove. "We could have had something good here. A real family, multi-generational support. But you chose your bedroom over your grandchild. I hope you can live with that." I turned around and looked at her. "Paulette, you and Wesley told me to leave my bedroom. Not asked, told. Like I was a guest who'd overstayed. In my own house that I've owned for 42 years. We needed the space. You needed to take what was mine without asking. That's different from needing help. And now you're trying to make me feel guilty by framing this as me choosing a bedroom over a grandchild. But that's not what happened. I chose not to be displaced in my own home. There's a difference." You're still punishing us. I'm downsizing to a home that fits my life. You're welcome to visit when I'm settled, but I'm not providing free housing and childcare on demand. That's not punishment. That's boundary. She stood up. Fine, but when you're old and alone and you realize you made a mistake, it'll be too late. After she went upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table and I thought about her words. Old and alone. Like being old and alone was the worst thing that could happen. Like I should accept any treatment, any displacement, any disrespect just to avoid being alone. But I'd been alone for 12 years since George died. I'd built a life. Friends, activities, church, hobbies. I wasn't afraid of alone. I was afraid of being erased in my own space while people told me it was for my own good. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the grandchild I'd never met, the baby Paulette was carrying. Would they really keep the baby from me? Tell my grandchild I'd abandoned them when they needed help? Part of me hurt at the thought, but another part, the part that had smiled when Wesley told me to leave my room, that part knew. You can't let fear of loss control your choices. If I gave in now, moved to the guest room, let them stay rent-free, where would it end? When would I ever get my life back? The answer was never. It would never end. They'd stay until I died, taking more and more, telling me it was for family. I chose boundary. The next morning, Wesley came down early. He sat across from me at breakfast. Mom, I want to apologize. I looked up, surprised. I was wrong to tell you to leave your bedroom. It was disrespectful. You're right that this is your house and I shouldn't have acted entitled to it. I'm sorry. I searched his face. He looked sincere, tired but sincere. Thank you for saying that. I've been thinking about everything, about how we moved in temporarily and just stayed, about how we took over more and more space without asking, about the bedroom thing. Mom, I get why you're selling. I don't like it, but I get it. Wesley, I appreciate the apology. I really do. But it doesn't change the plan. I'm still selling. You're still moving out. The apology is good. It helps repair our relationship. But it doesn't mean I'm keeping the house for you to live in. His expression shifted. The sincerity cracked slightly. So nothing I say matters. You've already decided. I decided months ago that I wanted to downsize. Your behavior moved up the timeline, but it didn't create the plan. Wesley, this house is too big for me. Even if you weren't here, I'd be selling. But we need more time. You have 2 weeks. That's the time you have. He left for work without another word. And I wondered if the apology had been real or strategic. One last attempt to change my mind. Either way, it didn't matter. The house was sold. The closing date was set. In 2 weeks, it wouldn't be mine anymore. 5 days before the move, I came home from visiting Opal to find boxes everywhere. Wesley and Paulette were packing, finally accepting that this was happening. But something felt wrong. The atmosphere was too quiet, too tense. I went to my bedroom, still my bedroom for 5 more days, and found Paulette in there, going through my dresser. What are you doing? She jumped. I was just looking for something. In my dresser, looking for what? I thought you might have some of Wesley's baby photos. I wanted copies for the nursery. Wesley's baby photos are in the albums on the shelf in the guest room where he's sleeping, not in my dresser. What are you actually looking for? Her face flushed. Nothing, I made a mistake. She left quickly. I checked my dresser carefully. Everything seemed to be there, but I had the distinct feeling she'd been looking for something specific. That night, I moved my important documents, deed to the house, financial papers, my will to Opal's house, just in case. I didn't know what Paulette had been looking for, but I wasn't taking chances. 3 days before move-out, the realtor called. Mabel, we have a problem. The buyers did a final walkthrough, and they're saying there's significant damage to the master bedroom that wasn't there during the inspection. Deep scratches on the hardwood floor, holes in the wall, damage to the closet door. They're threatening to back out or demand a $5,000 credit for repairs. What? There was no damage when I left this morning. Can you check now? I went to my bedroom. The scratches on the floor looked fresh, like someone had dragged something heavy and sharp across it deliberately. The holes in the wall were small, like from nails or screws. The closet door had a crack that definitely wasn't there this morning. Someone had damaged my bedroom, on purpose, right before the sale closed. I took photos, called Regina back. The damage is real, but it's new. Someone did this deliberately. Do you know who? I thought about Paulette in my dresser, about Wesley's fake apology, about their desperation to stop the sale. I have suspicions. We need to fix it before closing or the buyers will walk. Can you get it repaired in 3 days? I'll try. I got estimates from repair services. The fastest timeline was 2 days, cost $3,200. I paid it because I wasn't letting them sabotage the sale. But that night, I confronted Wesley. Did you damage the master bedroom? What? No, why would I do that? Because the buyers found damage that wasn't there this morning. Damage that could kill the sale. Well, it wasn't me. Maybe the damage was already there and you didn't notice. Fresh scratches across refinished hardwood. I would have noticed. Wesley, if you're trying to sabotage this sale. I'm not. Mom, you're paranoid. We're packing. We're moving. We've accepted this. Stop accusing us of things we didn't do. I didn't push further, but I also didn't believe him. The repairs were done in time. The sale closed. I moved to Opal's house with my essential belongings. Wesley and Paulette moved to their apartment. And for the first time in 6 months, I could breathe. 2 weeks after the move, Opal and I were having coffee when she asked, "Have you heard from Wesley?" No, radio silence since they moved out. How do you feel about that? Relieved, mostly. I know I should feel sad about the distance, but Opal, I feel free, like I got my life back. What about the baby? Do you think they'll really keep you away? I think they'll try. Use access to the grandchild as leverage to get what they want. Free housing, free childcare, control over my space. But Opal, I can't make choices based on fear of what they might withhold. I'd never have any boundaries. You're stronger than I would be. I'm just tired of being small. 3 weeks later, I found a condo. 2 bedrooms, one for me and one for guests. Low maintenance. Active senior community with activities and social groups. Perfect. I put in an offer. It was accepted. Closing in 30 days. I was building my new life, without Wesley's approval, without guilt. And it felt good. 4 weeks after the move, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Is this Mabel Sutton? Yes. This is Grant Whitmore. I'm the new owner of your former house on Maple Street. We need to talk about what we found. My stomach dropped. What did you find? A hidden safe, behind the panel in the master bedroom closet. It was locked, but we got it open. Inside were documents, cash, and some jewelry. Mrs. Sutton, this is your property. We need to return it to you. A safe. I'd completely forgotten about it. George had installed it 20 years ago. We'd kept important documents there, some emergency cash, my mother's jewelry. And I'd forgotten about it entirely when I moved. In the chaos of selling, packing, dealing with Wesley and Paulette, it had slipped my mind completely. How much cash? Looks like about $47,000. And there's jewelry, old documents, some bonds that might still be valuable. $47,000, plus jewelry, plus bonds. Mr. Whitmore, thank you for calling. Can I come pick it up? Of course, anytime this week works. After I hung up, I sat thinking. Paulette had been in my bedroom going through my dresser, looking for baby photos. But baby photos were in albums in the guest room. She knew that. What if she'd been looking for something else? What if she'd known about the safe? Wesley had grown up in that house. He might have known about the safe from childhood, might have told Paulette. What if they'd been planning to come back after I moved and take what was in it? That would explain the bedroom damage. Sabotaging the sale would have given them more time in the house, more opportunity to access the safe. But I'd pushed through the repairs, closed on time, and now the new owners had the safe and were returning it to me. I picked up the safe contents 3 days later. Mr. Whitmore was kind, honest, refusing any reward for returning my property. "It's yours. We're just glad we found it before something happened to it." I brought everything to Opal's house, counted the cash, examined the jewelry, reviewed the documents. Everything was there, untouched. And I realized something. If I hadn't sold the house, if I'd let Wesley and Paulette stay, they eventually would have found that safe. Would have discovered it and probably claimed they needed it for the baby, for emergencies, for family. Selling the house had protected more than just my bedroom and my boundaries. It had protected assets I'd forgotten I had. That night, I divided the cash. $20,000 went into an emergency fund. $20,000 went into an investment account for my future care needs. $7,000 I kept liquid for my condo down payment boost. The jewelry I had appraised. My mother's pieces were worth more than I'd known, about $18,000 combined. The bonds were indeed still valuable, another $12,000 once they matured. Total unexpected assets, nearly $77,000. I'd thought selling the house and moving out was about protecting my space and my dignity. I'd protected nearly $80,000 in assets I'd forgotten about. Assets Wesley and Paulette had probably been planning to claim. 2 weeks before my condo closing, I got a text from Wesley. "Baby is here, girl, 7 pounds 3 Oz. Her name is Nora, thought you should know." Just information, no invitation to visit, no photo, just facts. I texted back, "Congratulations, I hope everyone is healthy." No response. And I sat with the news that I was a grandmother to a baby girl I'd probably never meet. It hurt, I won't pretend it didn't. But it didn't hurt enough to make me regret my choices. I closed on the condo 3 days later, moved in with Opal's help, set up my new space, smaller, simpler, completely mine. The second bedroom became a guest room with a crib in the corner, just in case, just if someday. But I didn't count on it. 1 month after moving into the condo, I was at the community center for a book club meeting when a woman approached me. "Are you Mabel Sutton?" "Yes." "I'm Claire Hutchins. I live in your old house. My husband Grant called you about the safe." "Oh yes, thank you again for that." "Of course, but I wanted to talk to you about something else. After we moved in, we started getting visitors. A young man and a pregnant woman. Well, she's had the baby now. They keep coming to the door asking if they can check on something they left behind. They seem very interested in the master bedroom specifically." "Wesley and Paulette, looking for the safe." "What did you tell them?" "That everything left in the house was now ours and they needed to stop coming by. But they've come back 3 times. The last time, the young man tried to push past my husband to get upstairs. We had to threaten to call the police." "I'm so sorry. That's my son and his wife." "I figured as much. He looks like you. Mrs. Sutton, I wanted to ask, is there something they're looking for? Something we should know about?" "There was a safe. You already found it and returned the contents to me. Whatever they're looking for, it's not there anymore." "Good. Then I'll tell them clearly. Stop coming by or we'll get a restraining order. I just wanted to make sure we weren't keeping something that belonged to them." "You're not. Thank you for telling me." After Claire left, I thought about Wesley going back to the house, trying to push his way in, desperate to access a safe that was already empty. They'd been planning it all along. The bedroom demand, the sabotage, the delay tactics, all of it designed to keep access to that safe. And they'd failed, because I'd sold quickly, moved completely, and forgotten about assets they were counting on claiming. That night, I got a series of texts from Wesley. "Did you know about the safe when you sold the house? Did you deliberately hide it from us? That money should be family money, for the baby. You're being selfish again." I didn't respond to any of them. What could I say? That the money was mine, that I'd forgotten about it entirely, that their obsession with it proved exactly why I was right to sell. They wouldn't hear it anyway. The next morning, one final text. "We're done. Don't contact us. Don't ask about Nora. You made your choice." And I sat with that message, feeling its weight. They were cutting me off. Completely. I'd never know my granddaughter. It should have broken me. Instead, I felt something unexpected, relief. Because the threat was gone. The leverage they'd been holding, access to the baby, was gone. They'd used it, cut me off, and I was still okay. I still had my condo, my independence, my money, my dignity. I'd lost access to my granddaughter, but I'd kept myself. And somehow, that felt like the right choice. 3 months into condo life, I'd built a new routine. Book club twice a month, water aerobics 3 times a week, volunteer work at the community food bank, lunches with Opal and other friends. I had a life, fuller than it had been when Wesley and Paulette were taking over my house. Then one afternoon, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Paulette standing there, alone, holding baby Nora. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside, let her enter. We sat in my living room. Nora slept in her carrier. "Wesley doesn't know I'm here." "Why are you here?" "Because I need help, real help, and I don't know who else to ask." That was the moment everything shifted again. And what she told me changed everything. I thought I knew about why they'd really moved into my house in the first place. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Paulette sat on my couch, Nora sleeping in the carrier beside her, and she looked more tired than I'd ever seen her. "Wesley is gambling." I stared at her. "What?" "Gambling, online poker, sports betting, casino apps. He's been doing it for 2 years. That's why we could never save money. That's why our rent went up and we couldn't afford the new lease. We weren't broke because of rent. We were broke because Wesley was losing thousands of dollars every month gambling." I sat very still, processing this. "How much has he lost?" "About $60,000 over 2 years. Maybe more. I don't even know the full amount because he hides accounts from me." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because moving into your house was never about saving for our own place. It was about hiding from debt collectors, about having free housing so more of Wesley's paycheck could go to covering gambling losses without me noticing. And the bedroom thing, Wesley convinced me we needed the master bedroom. But now, I think he just wanted you moved out of there so he could access something. He kept talking about family assets and how you were sitting on money that should be shared. The safe, Wesley had known about it all along. Paulette, there was a safe in that bedroom. My husband installed it 20 years ago. It had cash and valuables in it. I'd completely forgotten about it until the new owners found it after I sold the house." Her face went white. "How much was in it?" "That's not your concern, but it's gone now. The owners returned it to me. Whatever Wesley was planning, it's too late." "That's why he's been so angry. He keeps saying you stole family money, that you hid assets and sold the house just to keep everything from him." She started crying. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about the gambling until after we moved out. I found betting apps on his phone, searched his email and found messages from debt collectors. Mabel, we're drowning. The apartment costs more than we can afford and Wesley can't stop gambling long enough to actually save anything." "What do you want from me?" "I don't know. I needed to tell someone. And I needed you to know that I didn't understand what was really happening when we lived with you. Wesley told me you were being difficult and selfish, that you had plenty of money and space but wouldn't share. I believed him because he's my husband. But now I see he was lying about everything." I looked at this young woman, 34 years old, new mother, married to my son who'd apparently been lying to everyone including her. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Leave him, maybe. I can't raise Nora in this chaos, but I have no money of my own. I haven't worked since the pregnancy complications started. I'm completely dependent on Wesley, and if I leave, I have nowhere to go." I didn't offer help. I didn't offer to take her in. I just sat there watching her cry and I felt nothing. Not sympathy, not anger, just a kind of distant observation. This wasn't my problem to solve. "Paulette, I'm sorry you're in this situation, but I can't fix it for you. You need to figure out what you're going to do, stay with Wesley and deal with the gambling, or leave and find your own way. But you can't come here expecting me to rescue you from choices you made. I'm not asking you to rescue me. You're asking for something. Money, housing, support. But Paulette, 6 months ago you told me to leave my own bedroom. You stood beside Wesley while he tried to displace me in my own house. You brought your mother to my home to guilt me about the baby. You damaged my bedroom to try to sabotage the house sale. And now you want help. I didn't damage the bedroom. That was Wesley. I didn't know he was going to do that. Maybe not. But you went along with everything else. You told me I was choosing my bedroom over my grandchild. You helped him paint me as selfish and cruel. And now that you need something, you're here. She stood up, picking up Nora's carrier. You're right. I shouldn't have come. I just thought. I don't know what I thought. That maybe family meant something. Family means something when it's mutual, when people respect each other, not when one person only shows up when they need something. She left without another word. And I sat in my quiet condo, thinking about what she'd told me. Wesley gambling away $60,000. The bedroom demand being about accessing the safe. The whole temporary stay being about hiding from debt collectors. None of it had been what it appeared to be. I'd thought I was dealing with entitled adult children who wanted free housing. I'd actually been dealing with an addict hiding debts and planning to steal from a safe he thought I'd forgotten about. Selling the house had protected me from more than I'd realized. That evening, I got a call from Opal. Did Paulette come see you today? How did you know? Because she just called me. She's trying to find someone who'll take her in. She asked if she could stay with me just temporarily while she figures things out. I told her no. Good. She said you were cold to her, refused to help with the baby. She came here asking for help after spending months trying to take over my house and then cutting me off from my granddaughter. What did she expect? She expected you to fold because of the baby. She's using Nora as leverage, just like Wesley did. Mabel, don't fall for it. I won't. But after I hung up, I thought about Nora. About my granddaughter growing up with a gambling addict father and a mother who was learning too late what kind of man she'd married. It wasn't Nora's fault. She was innocent in all this. But I still couldn't fix it, couldn't rescue them, couldn't sacrifice my boundaries and my peace to save people who'd shown me they'd take everything if I let them. 2 weeks later, I got a Facebook message from someone named Angela Pritchard. Mrs. Sutton, you don't know me, but I'm Wesley's supervisor at work. I need to speak with you about a sensitive matter regarding your son. Can we meet somewhere private? I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near my condo. Angela was about 50, professional, serious. She got straight to the point. Wesley has been stealing from the company. Small amounts at first, but it's escalated. We're talking about $23,000 over the past 8 months. We discovered it during a routine audit. My chest tightened. Are you pressing charges? That's why I wanted to talk to you first. Wesley claims he can pay it back. He says he has family money coming, an inheritance situation that's being resolved. He's begging us not to file charges, says if we give him 60 days, he'll have the full amount. Mrs. Sutton, is there any truth to that? Is there family money he's about to receive? No, there's no inheritance coming. No family money. Whatever he told you is a lie. She closed her eyes briefly. That's what I thought. Mrs. Sutton, I wanted to talk to you because Wesley listed you as an emergency contact. I thought you should know what's happening before the police get involved. What are you going to do? We have no choice. We're filing charges. The company is insured, but our insurer requires prosecution for fraud cases. Wesley will be arrested, probably within the week. After Angela left, I sat in that coffee shop for a long time. My son was going to be arrested for stealing from his employer, to cover gambling debts, while his wife and newborn baby depended on his income. I should have felt devastated, heartbroken. Instead, I felt a strange kind of calm. This was what happened when someone chose addiction over honesty, when they stole from family, from employers, from anyone they could access. This was consequence. I didn't call Wesley to warn him, didn't offer to pay back the money, didn't try to intervene. I just went home to my condo and continued living my life. 3 days later, Wesley was arrested at work, charged with embezzlement and fraud. Paulette called me hysterical. They arrested him. At his job, everyone saw. He's in jail and I don't have money for bail and I don't know what to do. What do you want me to do about it? Help, he's your son, you have to help him. Paulette, Wesley stole $23,000 from his employer to cover gambling debts. That's a crime. I can't fix that. But you have money. You could bail him out. I could, but I won't. Wesley needs to face what he's done. What about Nora? What about me? How am I supposed to live with no income and a baby? That's something you'll have to figure out. I'm sorry you're in this position, but I didn't create it. Wesley did. You're just going to let your son rot in jail. I'm going to let my son face the consequences of stealing from his employer. Yes. She hung up on me. And I sat in my living room, thinking about the path that had led here. If I'd let Wesley and Paulette stay in my house rent-free, they'd have bled me dry eventually. The gambling would have continued. The debts would have grown. And eventually Wesley would have found that safe, taken the $47,000 and gambled it away too. Selling the house had protected me from being part of his destruction. But it hadn't protected him from destroying himself. That night, I got a message from Veronica, Paulette's mother. I hope you're happy. Your stubbornness about that house has destroyed this family. Wesley is in jail, Paulette is alone with a baby, and you sit in your little condo acting like none of this is your fault. You could have helped them. You chose not to. This is on you. I blocked her number. Because it wasn't on me, it was on Wesley, on his choices, on his addiction, on his lies. I hadn't caused any of it. I just refused to enable it. The arraignment was scheduled for the following week. I didn't go, but Opal did. She wanted to see what happened. She called me afterward. They set bail at $15,000. Paulette couldn't pay it. Wesley is staying in jail until trial. How did he look? Terrible, broken. He kept looking around the courtroom like he was expecting someone to save him. Mabel, he's looking at 2 to 5 years if convicted. 2 to 5 years, my son, in prison. I should have cried, should have felt something. But I just felt empty, like I was hearing about a stranger. 3 weeks after Wesley's arrest, Paulette showed up at my door again, this time without Nora. Can I come in? I let her in. I'm leaving, going back to my parents' house in Ohio. I can't afford the apartment alone, and I can't stay here waiting for Wesley's trial. My parents said I can come home with Nora. Okay. I wanted to tell you something before I left. I found Wesley's journals. He'd been planning to take that safe money for over a year. That's why we moved in. He knew about the safe from when he was a kid. He remembered you and his dad talking about it. He thought if we lived there long enough, you'd eventually tell him about it or he'd find a way to access it. The bedroom. Yes, he wanted you out of that room so he could search for the safe without you knowing. When you refused, when you sold the house instead, he lost his mind. That's when the gambling got worse. He'd been counting on that money to clear his debts. And you didn't know any of this. I swear I didn't. I thought we were broke because of normal life expenses. I didn't know about the gambling until after we moved out. And I didn't know about the safe plan until I read his journals last week. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know you were right. About everything. You weren't being selfish or cruel. You were protecting yourself from someone who was planning to steal from you. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I'm sorry I helped him try to manipulate you. What about Nora? What about her? Are you going to let me see her, be part of her life? Paulette looked at me for a long moment. I don't know. Right now I need to focus on surviving, on getting away from this mess, on building a life for Nora that isn't built on lies and gambling and theft. Maybe someday, when things are stable, we can figure out what a relationship looks like, but not now. I understand. Do you? Because you don't seem to care that your son is in jail or that your granddaughter is growing up without a father. I care, but I can't fix it, and I won't sacrifice myself trying. Paulette, Wesley made choices. He's facing consequences. That's not my fault, and it's not my responsibility to rescue him from what he's earned. She stood up. I used to think you were heartless, but now I think you're just honest. You see things clearly and you don't lie to yourself about what they are. Is that a compliment or an insult? I don't know, maybe both. After she left, I sat thinking about her words. You see things clearly. Maybe that was it. Maybe I just finally learned to see what was actually happening instead of what I wanted to believe was happening. Wesley wasn't a struggling young father who needed help. He was an addict who'd planned to steal from me. Paulette wasn't a concerned daughter-in-law worried about family. She was a woman who'd gone along with manipulation until it affected her directly. And I wasn't being cruel by setting boundaries. I was being honest about what I could and couldn't accept in my life. Clarity. That's what the smile had been about when Wesley told me to leave my room. Clarity about who he really was, and what I needed to do to protect myself. 1 month after Paulette left for Ohio, Wesley's case went to trial. I didn't attend, but I got updates from people who did. He pleaded guilty, got 3 years in prison, would be eligible for parole after 18 months if he completed addiction treatment programs while incarcerated. 3 years. My son would be 52 when he got out. Opal came to my condo after the sentencing. How are you doing? I'm okay. Really? Your son just got sentenced to 3 years in prison and you're okay. What do you want me to say? That I'm devastated? I'm not. I'm sad that Wesley made the choices he made. I'm sad he hurt people. But Opal, I'm not responsible for fixing him. He's an adult who committed crimes. He's facing consequences. That's how it should work. Does any part of you feel guilty? Like maybe if you'd helped him, this wouldn't have happened. No, because if I'd helped him, he'd have gambled away my money too. He'd have stolen from the safe. He'd have dragged me down with him. My help wouldn't have stopped his addiction. It would have just funded it longer. You're probably right. I know I'm right, because I saw clearly what was happening and I acted on what I saw. And Opal, I'm not going to feel guilty for protecting myself from someone who was planning to steal from me. 6 months after Wesley went to prison, I got a letter from him. Prison mail, carefully written. Mom, I'm in a treatment program here, working on the gambling addiction, learning about the lies I told myself and everyone else. I wanted to write and tell you, you were right about everything. I was planning to take the safe money. That's why we moved in. That's why I wanted your bedroom, easier access to search for it. When you sold the house instead, I lost my mind. I'd been counting on that money to fix everything, and when it disappeared, I made everything worse trying to replace it. The stealing from work, the lies to Paulette, all of it was about feeding the addiction and covering the debts. Mom, you did the right thing selling the house. If you hadn't, I'd have taken that safe money and gambled it away. Then I'd have asked you for more. Then I'd have stolen from you directly. You saw what I was before I could admit it to myself, and you protected yourself. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. Your smile that day when I told you to leave your room, I understand it now. You weren't broken. You were already 10 steps ahead of me. You already knew what I was planning and you'd already decided how to stop it. I thought I was manipulating you, but you were handling me the whole time. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're happy in your new place. I hope you're living the life you deserve. Wesley. I read the letter twice. Then I put it in a drawer and went about my day. The apology was good. The self-awareness was progress. But it didn't change anything. Wesley was in prison. Paulette and Nora were in Ohio, and I was in my condo living my life. 1 year after selling the house, I was at water aerobics when another woman in the class, Denise, said something that surprised me. You're Mabel, right? The woman whose son tried to steal her bedroom. I stopped mid-movement. How do you know about that? My daughter lives in your old neighborhood. She heard the whole story from the new owners, about your son moving in and demanding your bedroom, and you just smiled and sold the house out from under him. Mabel, you're kind of a legend. A legend? For standing up to family manipulation. For not letting your kids take advantage of you. Do you know how many women our age live with adult children who treat them like guests in their own homes? You're an inspiration." I didn't feel like an inspiration. I felt like someone who just refused to be erased. But maybe that was the same thing. That evening, I got an unexpected call from Paulette. "I thought you should know," Nora said her first word today. She said, "Mama." "That's wonderful." Silence, then, "Would you like to see her on a video call?" "Are you sure?" "I've been thinking about what you said, about boundaries being healthy, about not letting people take advantage. Mabel, I want Nora to know her grandmother, the real one, the one who doesn't let people push her around. Is that something you'd want?" I felt something crack in my chest. The first real emotion I'd felt about Nora since she was born. "Yes, I'd like that very much." We set up a video call for the following week. And when I saw Nora's face on the screen, 9 months old, smiling, reaching for the camera, I felt something I'd thought was gone forever. Connection to family, on terms I could accept. Paulette and I talked weekly after that. She was building a life in Ohio, working part-time, raising Nora, considering divorce but not rushing into it. "I'm learning to see clearly too," she told me one call. "To see what's real instead of what I want to believe, like you did. It's hard. It's worth it." And slowly, carefully, I built a relationship with my granddaughter. Through screens at first, then, eventually, through visits. Paulette brought Nora to see me when Nora was 14 months old. They stayed at a hotel, visited for short periods, kept boundaries clear. It wasn't the relationship I'd imagined as a grandmother, but it was real, honest, based on mutual respect instead of obligation or manipulation. It was enough. Wesley was released after 20 months with good behavior and program completion. He moved to a halfway house, started attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings, got a job in a warehouse. He sent me letters occasionally, updates on his recovery, apologies for the past, never asking for anything. I read them. Sometimes I responded with brief notes of encouragement. But I didn't invite him to visit, didn't offer help, didn't try to rebuild what had been broken. Some things, once shattered, don't go back together the same way. You can acknowledge the pieces, but you don't have to cut yourself trying to force them back into a shape that no longer fits. 2 years after selling the house, I was sitting in my condo reading when I thought about that moment. Wesley standing in my bedroom doorway, telling me to leave my own room. Me smiling. They hadn't understood why I smiled. But I had. Even then, I'd understood. I smiled because I saw clearly, because I knew exactly what was happening and exactly what I was going to do about it. I smiled because they thought telling me to leave my room would make me smaller, weaker, more compliant. Instead, it had freed me, given me permission to do what I'd been thinking about anyway, sell the house, downsize, and start fresh. They'd thought they were taking control. Really, they'd handed it to me. And I'd used it to build a life they never saw coming. A life where I had boundaries, dignity, peace, and yes, eventually, a relationship with my granddaughter, on my terms. They'd told me to leave my own room. I'd smiled. And then I'd left the whole house, left them scrambling, left them facing consequences they'd spent months trying to avoid. That's why I smiled. Because sometimes the clearest form of power is walking away from people who think you're trapped. They thought I was broken. They thought wrong. And my smile was the first sign that I was already 10 steps ahead. 3 years after selling the house, I was living a life I'd built entirely on my own terms. Water aerobics on Mondays and Thursdays, book club every other Wednesday, volunteer work at the food bank on Fridays, video calls with Nora twice a week. It wasn't the life I'd imagined at 76, but it was peaceful, honest, mine. Then one Tuesday morning, my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Sutton, this is Daniel Reeves. I'm a counselor at the halfway house where your son Wesley is staying. He's asked me to reach out to you about something important." My stomach tightened. Is he all right? Physically, yes, but Wesley is struggling with his recovery. He's been doing well in the program, but he's hit what we call a relapse trigger point. He's asked if you'd be willing to meet with him. Not alone, I'd be there to facilitate, just to talk. What does he want to talk about? Honestly, I think he needs to hear certain things from you, things he can't move forward without understanding. Mrs. Sutton, I'm not asking you to forgive him or reconcile or anything beyond your comfort level, but I think one conversation could help both of you. I thought about it for a long moment. When? This Saturday at 2 p.m. if you're available, at the halfway house, just 1 hour. I'll be there. Saturday came faster than I wanted. I drove to the halfway house, a plain building in a part of town I didn't know well. Daniel Reeves met me in the lobby. Mid-40s, kind eyes, professional but warm. Thank you for coming. Wesley is in the conference room. Before we go in, I want to set some ground rules. This is a conversation, not a confrontation. You're both free to leave at any time, and I'm here to keep things productive. Does that work for you? Yes. We walked down a hallway to a small conference room. Wesley sat at a table, looking older than his 52 years. Thinner, gray at the temples, tired. He stood when I entered. Mom, thank you for coming. I sat across from him. Daniel sat at the head of the table. Wesley, you asked for this meeting. What did you want to talk about? He took a breath. I need to understand something. When I told you to leave your bedroom, when I made that demand, you smiled. I've thought about that smile every day for 3 years. Why did you smile? Because I saw clearly what you were doing, and I already knew what I was going to do about it. You were already planning to sell the house. I'd been thinking about downsizing for 2 years. Your demand just made the decision final. So I basically pushed you into doing something you were going to do anyway. Yes, but you accelerated it, made it urgent, gave me permission to stop waiting for you to leave and just handle it myself. Wesley looked at Daniel. I thought I was manipulating her, but she was handling me the whole time. Daniel nodded. That's actually a healthy realization. Go on. Wesley turned back to me. Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did any part of you want to help me, want to rescue me from the mess I was making, or did you just write me off completely? I thought carefully before answering. I wanted you to help yourself, but I couldn't want it more than you wanted it. And Wesley, you didn't want help. You wanted enablement. You wanted free housing so you could keep gambling. You wanted access to that safe so you could pay debts. You wanted me to be small and compliant so I wouldn't interfere with your plans. You didn't want help. You wanted a victim. Is that really how you saw it? That's how it was. You came to my house with a story about needing temporary help. The truth was you needed to hide from debt collectors and access money you thought I'd forgotten about. Everything you did, the bedroom demand, the damage to the floor, the manipulation, it was all about feeding your addiction and covering your tracks. You're right, all of it. He looked down. Here's what I can't figure out. How did you know? How did you see through everything when Paulette didn't, when my boss didn't, when everyone else believed my lies? Because I'm your mother. I've known you for 52 years. I know when you're being honest and when you're performing. And Wesley, from the moment you asked to move in temporarily, something felt wrong. I couldn't name it at first, but I felt it. And you still let me move in. Because you're my son, I wanted to believe you needed help. I wanted to trust you. But I also watched carefully, documented, noticed patterns. And when you told me to leave my bedroom, all the pieces came together. I saw exactly what you were doing. Daniel spoke up. Wesley, what are you hearing from your mother? That she loved me enough to let me in, but she was smart enough not to let me destroy her. Is that accurate, Mrs. Sutton? Yes, I loved Wesley. I still do. But love doesn't mean letting someone steal from you. It doesn't mean sacrificing yourself to enable their addiction. Wesley's eyes were wet. I need to tell you something. In treatment, they made us write out every person we'd hurt, every lie we'd told, everything we'd stolen or tried to steal. Mom, my list was 15 pages long, and you were on almost every page. I know. How can you sit there so calm? How can you not hate me? Because hate takes energy I don't want to spend on you. Wesley, I'm not calm because I don't care. I'm calm because I've processed what happened and made peace with it. You hurt me. You tried to steal from me. You put your addiction ahead of your relationship with me. Those are facts. But they're facts I've accepted and moved on from. Have you forgiven me? I thought about that question. I've let go of the anger. I don't carry rage toward you. But forgiveness, the kind where we go back to how things were, no, that's not possible. You broke something that can't be repaired to its original shape. So we'll never have a normal mother-son relationship again. Define normal. We can have a relationship built on honesty and boundaries. We can have occasional contact based on mutual respect. But we can't have the relationship where you live in my house or have access to my life in ways you've proven you can't be trusted with. Wesley looked at Daniel. She's saying she'll never trust me again. Daniel looked at me. Is that what you're saying? I'm saying trust is earned through consistent behavior over time. Wesley has been out of prison for 14 months. He's been in recovery for 3 years total. That's good. That's progress. But it's not enough time to rebuild trust that was destroyed over years of lying and stealing. How much time would be enough? I don't know. Maybe there isn't enough time. Maybe some trust, once broken, doesn't fully restore. Wesley, I can acknowledge your recovery. I can encourage your progress. But I can't pretend I trust you with access to my life the way I did before. That's fair, Wesley said quietly. I hate it, but it's fair. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Daniel said, Wesley, is there anything else you needed to say to your mother? Just one thing, Mom, when Paulette and I moved out and everything fell apart, when I got arrested and went to prison, I kept waiting for you to rescue me, to bail me out, to hire a lawyer to do something. And you didn't. You let me sit in jail. Let me face trial. Let me go to prison. I was so angry at you. I know. But in treatment, I learned something. You letting me face consequences was the most loving thing you could have done. If you'd rescued me, I'd have gone right back to gambling, right back to stealing. I'd probably be dead by now. Mom, you saved my life by not saving me from my consequences. I felt tears on my face for the first time in years when thinking about Wesley. I'm glad you understand that now. Do you think there's any way we can build something new? Not what we had before, but something honest. Maybe, if you keep working your program, if you stay clean from gambling, if you rebuild your life on honesty instead of lies, then maybe, over time, we can build something. But Wesley, it starts with you proving through actions, not words, that you're trustworthy. How do I do that? You do it by living your life well, by staying in recovery, by being honest with yourself and others, by not asking things from me you haven't earned the right to ask, by respecting my boundaries without resentment. That's how you rebuild trust. And if I do all that, will you let me be part of your life again? I'll let you be part of my life in ways that are safe for both of us. That's the best I can offer. Daniel spoke up. I think that's a good place to pause. Wesley, you asked for clarity and your mother gave it to you. Mrs. Sutton, thank you for being honest with him. Do either of you want to say anything else before we end? I looked at Wesley. I want you to succeed. I want you to beat this addiction. I want you to build a good life. But I can't want it more than you want it. And I can't sacrifice my peace to help you achieve it. You're on your own with this, Wesley. That's not cruelty. That's reality. I understand. And Mom, thank you for coming. Thank you for being honest. And thank you for selling the house when you did. If you hadn't, I'd have destroyed both of us. I left the halfway house and drove home to my condo. And I cried, not from sadness or regret, from relief. Relief that I'd been strong enough to see clearly and act on what I saw. Relief that Wesley was finally understanding what I'd done and why. Relief that I'd protected myself from someone who'd planned to destroy me, even though that someone was my own son. 6 months after that meeting, Paulette called with news. The divorce is final. I have full custody of Nora. Wesley has supervised visitation rights once he completes his program and maintains 6 months of clean recovery. How do you feel? Free, scared, but mostly free. Mabel, I wanted to ask you something. Would you be willing to visit us in Ohio? Spend a week here? Nora is 2.5 now, and she talks about Grandma Mabel all the time from our video calls. I think she should meet you in person. I'd like that very much. I visited Ohio 3 weeks later, spent a week with Paulette and Nora, played with my granddaughter, helped with bedtime routines, read stories, built blocks. It was the grandmother experience I'd thought I'd lost forever. Not perfect, not traditional, but real. On my last day there, Paulette and I sat on her porch while Nora napped. "I've been thinking about that smile," Paulette said. "What smile?" "When Wesley told you to leave your bedroom, you smiled. I thought you were crazy, or in shock. But now I understand. You smiled because you'd already won. You just hadn't told us yet." Something like that. Mabel, I want to be like that. I want to see things clearly and act on what I see instead of what I wish was true. How did you learn to do that? Life, loss, disappointment. Learning that hopping people will change doesn't make them change. Learning that protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's hard, though. Seeing clearly means accepting hard truths. Yes, but accepting hard truths is easier than living in denial and getting hurt over and over. You're right, she paused. Mabel, would it be okay if Nora and I moved closer to you? Not in with you, I'd never ask that. But maybe to your city. I've been looking at jobs there and the market is better than here. And I think it would be good for Nora to be near her grandmother. I'd like that. But Paulette, you need to make that choice for yourself and Nora, not for me. I am making it for us, but having you nearby would be a bonus. 4 months later, Paulette and Nora moved to an apartment 20 minutes from my condo. Nora started preschool. Paulette got a job as a medical office administrator. And I became a regular part of my granddaughter's life, picking her up from preschool once a week, having her sleep over on weekends, building the relationship I'd thought was gone forever. Wesley continued his recovery, got a better job, started taking classes. He sent me a card on Mother's Day with a simple message. "Thank you for being strong enough to let me fail. It saved my life." I kept the card. Not because I'd forgiven everything, but because it was evidence that clarity and boundaries, even when they felt cruel in the moment, had been the right choice. 4 years after selling the house, I was at the park with Nora when I saw someone I recognized. Claire Hutchins, the woman who'd bought my old house. "Mrs. Sutton, how are you?" "I'm well, how's the house?" "Perfect, we love it, best decision we ever made." She looked at Nora. "Is this your granddaughter?" "Yes, this is Nora." "She's beautiful." Claire lowered her voice. "Your son stopped coming around after we threatened the restraining order. Thank you for being honest with us about what he was looking for. Thank you for returning the safe contents to me." "Of course. Mrs. Sutton, can I tell you something? After we moved in, we heard stories about you from the neighbors. About how you sold the house when your son tried to take over. About how you just quietly handled everything and moved on. You're kind of a neighborhood legend." "So I've heard." "Well, you should know, you inspired me. My mother lives with my sister and my sister treats her terribly. Makes her feel like a burden. Your story made me realize my mom doesn't have to accept that. I've been helping her find her own place. She's moving out next month." I felt something warm in my chest. I'm glad she's getting her independence back. "She says she's taking the Mabel Sutton approach, seeing clearly and acting on it." Claire smiled. "You started something, you know. A lot of women our mother's age are standing up for themselves now. They're calling it the bedroom smile moment, when you realize you don't have to accept disrespect in your own home and you can just leave, start over, build something new." After Claire left, I sat on the park bench watching Nora play, and I thought about that phrase, the bedroom smile moment. The moment when you see clearly, when you understand what's really happening, when you realize you have power you'd forgotten about. The power to leave, to say no, to protect yourself, to build a new life on your terms. That smile wasn't about cruelty or revenge. It was about clarity and choice. Wesley had told me to leave my room. He thought he was taking power. Really, he was giving it to me, showing me exactly who he was and what he planned. giving me all the information I needed to make the clearest choice possible. And I'd smiled because I'd already made it, already decided, already knew what came next. They didn't understand why I smiled. But I did, and that was all that mattered. 5 years after selling the house, Wesley asked to meet me for coffee, just the two of us. No counselor, no mediator. I agreed. We met at a cafe halfway between my condo and his apartment. He looked healthy, clear-eyed, stable. Mom, I've been clean from gambling for 5 years now. I've paid back the money I stole from work. I've completed my recovery program. I have a decent job and a stable life. I'm not asking you to trust me or to let me back into your life in any major way. I just wanted you to see that I'm doing what you said I needed to do, building a life on honesty. I can see that. I'm proud of you, Wesley. Really? Really, recovery is hard. Staying in it is harder. You're doing the work. That matters. I've been seeing Nora. Supervised visits at first, now unsupervised a few hours at a time. She's an amazing kid. She is. Paulette tells me you're a big part of her life. That you pick her up from school, have her over on weekends. That Nora talks about Grandma Mabel constantly. We've built a relationship. It's good. I'm glad, and I'm glad Paulette moved closer to you. Nora deserves to know you. He paused. Mom, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think we'll ever be okay? Really okay? I thought about his question carefully. We'll never go back to what we were before, but we might build something new, something honest, based on who we actually are now, not who we wish we were. Is that enough for you? It has to be, because it's all we have. Wesley, I can see you at holidays. I can have conversations like this one. I can acknowledge your recovery and encourage your progress. But I can't let you back into my life in ways that require deep trust. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because I tried to steal from you. Because you planned to steal from me for over a year. Because you lied to me for months. Because you damaged my bedroom to try to sabotage the house sale. Wesley, those aren't mistakes. Those were choices. Extended, deliberate choices. I can forgive them in the sense of letting go of anger, but I can't forget them in the sense of pretending they didn't reveal who you were at that time. I'm not that person anymore. Maybe time will tell, but Wesley, you don't get to decide when I trust you again. That's my decision, based on my timeline, my comfort level. That's fair. He was quiet for a moment. Mom, that smile, I finally understand it completely. Do you? You smiled because you saw me clearly. You saw what I was planning, what I was capable of, who I really was underneath all the lies. And you made a choice to protect yourself from me. That smile was you realizing you were already free. You just had to act on it. Yes, that's exactly it. I hate that I gave you reason to smile like that. But I'm glad you were strong enough to see clearly and act on what you saw. If you hadn't, I'd have destroyed both of us. We finished our coffee and said goodbye, and I drove back to my condo thinking about how far we'd both come. I'd gone from a woman being displaced in her own home to someone living independently, connected to her granddaughter, at peace with her choices. Wesley had gone from an addict planning to steal from his mother to someone in recovery, rebuilding his life honestly. Neither of us was what we'd been 5 years ago, and maybe that was okay. That evening, Nora came over for our weekly sleepover. We made dinner together. She helped stir, proudly wearing her kid-sized apron. Grandma Mabel, why do you smile so much? Do I smile a lot? Mommy says you smile like you know a secret. Maybe I do know a secret. What is it? The secret is that you're stronger than people think you are. And when you know that, really know it, you can smile even when things are hard. I don't understand. You will someday. When you're older and someone tries to make you small, you'll remember that you don't have to be. You can smile and walk away and build something better. She thought about that, like you did. Like I did. Okay, I'm going to practice my secret smile. And she grinned at me. This big, goofy 3-year-old grin that was nothing like the smile I'd worn when Wesley told me to leave my room. But maybe someday it would be. Maybe someday Nora would face her own bedroom moment, whatever form it took. And maybe she'd remember her grandma Mabel. Remember the story of the woman who smiled when her son told her to leave her own room. And maybe that smile would give her permission to see clearly, to act on what she saw, to protect herself without apology. That would be my legacy, not the house I sold, not the son I held accountable, not even the relationship I rebuilt with my granddaughter. My legacy would be teaching Nora that you don't have to accept disrespect, that you can smile in the face of manipulation because you've already seen through it and made your choice. That clarity is power, and walking away is sometimes the strongest thing you can do. They told me to leave my room. I smiled. And I left the whole house, left them with consequences, left them with the truth they'd been avoiding. That smile wasn't defeat, it was freedom. And 5 years later, I was still smiling, still free, still building a life they'd never imagined I was capable of building. Because they thought I was weak, pliable, someone who could be pushed. They were wrong. And my smile was the first sign they'd miscalculated. The moment they should have known, this wasn't going to go the way they planned. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.